Welcome back to Citizen Extra. Many thanks indeed for staying tuned. Let's give you updates now from the courts. Lawyers representing Miguna say they will march to the Chief Justice to record their grievances on how the government is not obeying court orders. Further to that, lawyer Cliff Ombeta says that they will file an appropriate suit when the time comes, challenging the deportation of Miguna. Now, during today's mention before the High Court Judge Luka Kimaru, the lawyers say they will ask the court to order the Inspector General of Police and the Director of Criminal Investigation to present Miguna in court. Let's listen to what a lawyer, Miguna's advocate, or one of his advocates, Cliff Ombeta, had to say.
Together with DCI to bring Miguna in person here in court. This is after the government defied earlier orders. Actually, there are 4 orders that have been defied by the government. With me here, I'm with Cliff Ombeta representing Miguna and lawyer representing LSK. Remember that LSK applied to be enjoined in the case as interested party, who are able to give us more details on what's the strategy.
Apologize for that once again, but in another update from the court has ruled that a police officer, Titus Musila, alias Katitu, who was charged with killing a man during an operation at Githurai 45 in 2013, is guilty of the charge. The court has ruled that the prosecution has proven the case beyond reasonable doubt. The matter will then be mentioned now on the 27th of this month, when the probation officers are expected to file a report on pre-sentencing. The court has also directed the prison department to escort Katitu to his home so as to settle his family, then be taken to custody before the judge delivers his judgment. That is an update from the court. Let's now talk matters farming. A Nairobi-based firm has launched a mobile app by the name Ulima to provide information to farmers across the continent. The CEO was quoted as saying that the application is designed to provide farmers across Africa with a tool set, information libraries, database, and access to the latest market information. But this is not the first agribusiness-related app to be launched in the city. There are several others already in the market. But what comes out is that the issues ailing the agribusiness sector to some extent remain the same. At this time, we want to discuss technology and farming with my guest here in studio. At the far right there is Giles Lewis. He's from the marketing department of Ulima. Welcome to the program. And right next to him is Harun Washira, founder, Akili Group, and a social entrepreneur. Welcome to the program as well.
Thank you.
Let's get straight into it. First things first, we want to understand how the Ulima app works. I want to give you a chance to do so now. I don't know whether we'll be able to put up some of those slides on the screen, or if you can just demonstrate for us with your phone exactly what the app does.
Absolutely, yeah, sure. So Ulima is an app designed for farmers, by farmers, and by agronomists. As we know, in Kenya, farming is a huge percentage of the GDP of Kenya, and farmers often lack information and access to information. So the app is designed to give those farmers greater access to information. Kenya has a huge telephone network and one of the highest penetration rates of mobile technologies in Africa. So we're trying to enhance that and grasp that technology and push this information out to farmers. So if you open up the app, you are presented with this home screen. It gives you information on all crops, major crops grown in Kenya.
Give us examples.
So we can go in here. We can go, for example, to maize, the most popular. And at the moment, obviously, there's a big problem with armyworm. So you can go into, say, challenges. And it will talk about different problems that are seen in the farms. And it will also tell you, here's the problems. So we go pests. And it will even show you the pictures
so that you can identify them on your farm.
Absolutely. And it gives you the symptoms, the causes, and potential solutions. It will also recommend products as approved by KEFIS. And this isn't just for crops, this is also for livestock. So those are the 2 main data libraries that we have. And if you go back to the home screen here, you're able to also check the weather. It will localize your weather. But what we're most excited about is this market feature. So inside you can capture your own market prices, so what you're seeing in your region, It's all user-generated, so then we pull this data together, and for example, for maize, it will show you that by different grade, the different prices in the different regions. So in Nairobi, or we have all of the major counties here listed. So that's another big use of the application. We also have a community feature. We know how farmers love to talk and share ideas. So inside here, there's a forum. People can ask questions. So for example, there's someone here asking about heat signs for their cattle, and people have an open forum to discuss. So it's a huge tool for farmers, and it's free. It's available on Android and App Store.
Download it and you can. Yeah. So why this particular app? Why Kenya at this particular time?
Well, as I said, Kenya is a huge agricultural economy, and there's a huge small-scale farmer base, lack of information, but there is obviously this huge mobile penetration, particularly in rural areas compared to other African countries. You see people always using their phone. M-Pesa is a huge revolution in Kenya, and so we've actually targeted Kenya as the first place to launch this app in the world. And it's receiving great press, great user feedback, and we're constantly developing it. So it's still very early stages, but we're taking on board all the information and upgrading it as we go.
Okay. Harun, let me come to you now. Ulima is not the only app available to farmers in the country. Let me read you the names of a couple of others. Yeah. We have Ujuzi Kilimo, a Kenyan startup that uses big data analytical capabilities to transform farmers into a knowledge-based community. We have Farm Drive. This is another one that connects unbanked and undeserved smallholder farmers to credit. We have M-Farm, which provides pricing data to remove price asymmetry. Some of them I'm sure you're familiar with. With all these apps and a new one in the market right now, why is our agribusiness sector still struggling? Why are our small-scale farmers who ideally provide most of the food, who are, you know, who we should really be focusing on, still struggling?
I can add our own app, the Akili ET, which is in the market as well, and answer your question in a very specific way. I call it the need for assisted access. Assisted access to technology means that you're not just putting out technology out there for the farmer to utilize it by himself. Because what is he going to do? I'll give you a very, very good example. Right now, there is a complete shortage of maize in the country. In Mwea, Bere area, the price of maize is less than 3,000 shillings, 2,700 per bag. In 16 kilometers up in a place called Kianyaga, the price is 5,400. 16 kilometers.
Almost double.
It's double. Is it lack of knowledge? It's not lack of knowledge. The farmers in Mwea actually know that the price in Kianyaga is almost double the price in Mwea. The reason why they cannot access that market is because you are faced with issues of logistics, the issues of transport, issues of capitalization, the practical issues that farmers face. Being a very small farmer means that at every level of the value chain, they need assistance. Our production is so small. In Kirinyaga, the average production is right now at 1/8 of an acre. It doesn't matter what you do to that farmer unless he is part of an agro business that is assisting at the credit level, assisting at the access to the information, access to profit and loss, access to all those things in a systematic and programmed way as part of a group. Is not going to benefit from the technology.
So you can't just give them the tools, you have to teach them how to use these
tools.
Not
just teach. You have, in my own opinion, R&D has to be integrated in the value chain. If you go to the villages that I work in, there will be about 20 different seeds available, for example, for a product like spinach. How is the farmer going to know which one is the best? To just do the research, to plant each one of them and compare over 2 seasons, he's spending 100,000 shillings. He may never make 100,000 shillings in the next 2 or 3 years. So he will just buy whatever seed that is recommended out there. But within a cooperative environment or a group environment, it is possible to test them in small patches and make a recommendation for the group. This is the seed we plant. That's something you do together, R&D. If it comes to inputs themselves, I can give you some very practical examples that I work with in, again, citing Bere area, and that applies to all the semi-arid areas. If you use diatomite, which is a water holder, for example, and very, very cheap, less than 5 bob per kilogram if you buy the cost type. you can increase the period that it takes to water a plant by more than a week. So you plant with it, you plant the seed and the fertilizer and the diatomite in one hole. That plant that may require watering maybe 3 times a week would otherwise now be watered maybe just once a week or once every 2 weeks. But how are the farmers going to know? How are they going to go to Kariaduzi and come with a truckload of diatomite and utilize it all together?
I suspect Dials wants them to download the app and get that information.
Yeah, the information alone is not helpful in the sense that even when the farmer knows, he cannot organize by himself to go all the way to Kariaduzi to organize a truckload.
He needs to be part of a group.
He needs to be part of a group. That's really what I'm saying, that whatever it is that we are talking about, the application of it has to be done within the framework of group mobilization. And that applies to R&D, the inputs, the optimization of processes, and the whole issue of even whatever automation that you want to integrate.
Okay. Giles, I'm sure before you launch this up, you must have taken extensive time doing a lot of research. What has quote-unquote failed other apps that have been released in the past? Because he feels that, for one, that some of the implementation of the information that is given out can only be done as per a group. But I'm sure you have your own research as well. No, absolutely. And information isn't the be-all and end-all. And it's how farmers use that information. So we're actually also partnering with agro-dealers and agro-vets, who are typically in the community seen as one major source of information for farmers. So the farmer will go there and be recommended seed, fertilizer. So on our app, we also have an application inside which shows you all the closest agro-dealers closest to you. It will even come up with a picture of the agro-dealer, what products they stock, even a map to show you how to get there. So this greater improves the farmer's ability to find localized, experienced information sources. So it's not just reliant on the app, it's also using the people on the ground. To get the message out. So it's very important, including that. What do you think ails agribusiness in Kenya? From your research, what did you find were some of the biggest issues affecting Kenyan farmers? I mean, generally Africa has the lowest rates of fertilizer use in the world, which is a key factor. Obviously, the use of applicable seeds and seed development is also another key area for food security. And then, as the gentleman here was saying, logistics costs in Kenya are extremely high. Although, having said that, with the building of this SGR railway and further enhancements to that will also bring down costs of transport long distances. But typically these farmers will transport on the back of a boda or pull together and put in a truck. So it does get very expensive, but by enhancing these sort of technologies and mobile networks, farmers can talk to each other, they can share information. This guy is charging me this much to move my maize, this guy is charging me cheaper. We'll go with it. It improves efficiencies, or it helps improve efficiencies. Okay. So that's what we're all about. May I have a take on it? Yeah, go ahead.
I think the major challenge that I find in agribusiness is the small-scale nature of it. And being small-scale, all the problems that my colleague here is talking about happen. When you create scale out of small scale, you overcome all of those problems. If you have got 1,000 farmers producing a particular crop, they can have the right process, they can negotiate a market, they can use a shared technology, all those things. Scaling is a big issue. But I think also the very fact that our agriculture is controlled by other people other than the farmers. I was about to ask about the middlemen. Now, when this doesn't sound like it will work very well for them. If the farmers get together, they have greater bargaining power. They cut you off. Actually, brokers, if you come to Marigiti or Gikomba with a truckload of nyanya today, and you pack it out there and try to sell it, you cannot sell it. Literally, they will not allow you to sell it. That's truth today. You have to stand there as an owner and wait for the brokers to do the job, and they make more money than the farmer who grew, and they make more money than the transporter. They make money from everybody. So being able to negotiate specific access to market that are structured is not actually very difficult. If you build a market in which all farmers put their produce together and buyers come to that market the way it happens in other nations to you know, look at the demo, the displays, and then place your bids in an auction house. It can be done even at the county level. I have actually given several suggestions to several county heads on how they can control their own agriculture by creating formal market environments such as what Alsmeer does. Alsmeer is a cooperative in Holland. And we take our flowers there, we take our produce there, but we cannot do what they are doing here. So I think structuring the process of growing, the process of logistics, the process of putting a product to the market, if I were at the level of government, that is the biggest, I think, need. At the production level, it is the aggregation level. And, okay. And once you have pulled it all together, then you apply the best techniques, you use the best technology, you use the best practices that are there, because every one of them, just changing your fertilizer application doubles your production. But you cannot do it unless, for example, you have got the fertilizer available in the first place, and maybe if you are a group, you can bring it on and make it available to all your farmers and then deduct the money when the farmers sell their produce. So the logistics of organizing small-scale agriculture is a business, and that's what I'm involved in. I'm involved with it at lower and bigger levels, increasingly even accessing international markets, and you see the results. Somebody growing spinach on a quarter of an acre of farm would be able to get about 2 times the amount of money that same person would get from coffee from the same farm. But the inputs involved are significantly more, so that the farmer would only grow after he has been given those inputs, because he doesn't have the capital to do it in the first place.
So there, again, as I listen to both of you gentlemen, it sounds very simple. It's simple. But clearly it's not, otherwise it would have happened. Let me come to you, Giles, again. What's the plan then to roll out the app? And the other countries that you've selected, are their challenges similar to Kenya's? Is that the reason why you've mapped out? Because I saw there was an expansion plan as part of your press release. Yeah, absolutely. We want to start in Kenya because of what I've already mentioned, but we want to roll it out East Africa-wide, Rwanda, Burundi, Tanzania, and Uganda. Although they obviously have different agricultural economies, we will tailor our app to suit those different market needs. Although having said that, Tanzania and Uganda have very close links with Kenya in particular, particularly with the major food crops like maize and wheat. So it will make the transition from Kenya to those other regions easier, but we're very excited. Already the uptake of the app has been tremendous. It's exceeded our expectations, so we hope to continue the push regionally. Did you benchmark or sort of pick aspects of the app from other countries or other economies? Did you see things in the West that you felt could work in Africa? What was the thinking behind its original formation, or the idea behind it? Yeah, absolutely. As was mentioned, prices and commodity exchanges is something in the back of our minds that we wanted to bring to small-scale farmers. So price information is very important for us. We want farmers to know what the value of their crop is, and a genuine price. So the price is not set by anyone, it's set by the farmers. If they see that the next door neighbor is getting a higher price, they will input into the app that this is the price of a 50 kilo or 90 kilo bag of maize. So the farmer can then go to the broker and say, look, this app is telling me the price is 200 shillings more than you're offering me. I will go somewhere else and sell my maize. The brokers will not like your app very much. Yeah, well, as we said, they often impose a lot of inefficiencies in the value chain. It's so transparency is key in any efficient market. Transparency is key. If the farmer knows what his value of his crop, he knows the cost of his inputs, he knows his logistics costs, he knows his profit margins, he's able to plan for the next year. He says, oh, this year was not such a good year because of armyworm. So how do I treat that next year? I can get information from my agri-dealer. I can get information from apps. I can go to a bank and get a loan, or I can go to M-Pesa and get a loan to buy the pesticide for armyworm next year. He'll factor it into his costs, and next year he might have better rains and have solved the armyworm issue, and then he expands his acreage from half an acre to 2 acres. Harun, let's play scenarios here. According to the latest 5-year average from the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, Kenya's farmers harvest about 1.7 metric tons of maize per hectare of land. That's 20% less than farmers globally, 5 times smaller than a typical harvest in North America. It's even below several other producers in the region, Uganda, Zambia, Rwanda. How are we going to maximize output?
Well, I can share personal experience and then answer your question. we developed a fertilizer, but it was developed from human waste.
And the fertilizer discussion keeps coming up. We will really need to talk about this.
Yeah, we developed one, a fertilizer from human waste, properly treated, extremely efficient, and produced 45 bags as opposed to 8 bags from an acre of land. I was arrested and charged for it.
Arrested and charged? Arrested
and charged, and I endured a court case for 8 whole months, which fortunately I won, and that fertilizer became the most popular in use in the area that I was trying it in. We had partnerships with universities. We had partnerships with universities here and in Sweden, and it was a properly organized program.
On what grounds were they arresting you on? Sorry.
Because I'm working with human waste.
Okay.
Yeah, it's whatever. Actually, what they really wanted was corruption, money. And I said, I don't pay bribes. Then he said, then they will charge you. And they did. But it became a good mechanism. So I can agree that fertilizer application, the right fertilizer, whatever it is, whether, whichever method it's developed with, makes a big difference in production of maize. But I can also tell you this, you're not going to make a profit from maize in a small-scale farm. And I personally don't see any reason why anybody with an acre, 1 acre, quarter of an acre, 1/8 of an acre should plant maize.
You talked about almost half of Kenya. Little small pieces of land.
And I will tell you that I have an experiment going on with maize right now. Planting maize on a quarter of an acre, the tilling cost alone is 4,000 shillings, just the tilling cost. But planting with a tractor, the tilling cost is 2,500.
It's cheaper.
How is that person with a quarter of an acre going to compete with the person with a bigger piece of land? You need mechanization, you need large-scale production for economies of scale. And I think the change to get people to know that they should not plant maize, instead they should plant something else that has got a higher value, is the key. So that you plant maize only where you have got large-scale access to land, and you plant high-value crops in areas where you have got very, very small-scale plots of land. Then you use that money to buy your maize. But because the large-scale, the small-scale guys think they must eat maize, I ask them, do you make salt? I say, if we knew how to do it, we would do it. But, the point is that they shouldn't be doing what they cannot do optimally.
I also see the input of culture into this, that my parents grew maize, my grandparents grew maize, so...
It's not our culture. Maize was brought to us by the Portuguese.
Or at least what I grew up, quote unquote, but I get what you're saying. It wasn't even indigenously African, so to speak.
Yeah. Even as late as the 60s, we were still growing. When I was a small boy, we were growing millet, and we were growing yams, and we were growing cassava as part of slightly bigger portions of land we had. This constant preoccupation with growing maize, I actually have no idea where it came from. I went to Kitui. In one particular area, they had grown maize for 5 years, every season failing. And I asked them, what are you going to plant next? And they said maize. Why?
They say insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Jazz, let me come back to you. I want to refer to an article on our website, www.conversation.com. It's a website where journalists and scholars congregate and write articles about different issues, but I want to focus on agriculture here. One article says that science has the power to boost farming in Africa, but a lot has to change for that to happen. And they pose an interesting question: where is the disconnect between food production, which is a big deal in Africa, and food security? Why does the continent spend about $40 billion a year importing food when so many of the residents of Africa are farmers? And how can this situation be changed? I'm sure you considered all that as you're developing the app. Yeah. We export food, we are farmers primarily across Africa, but we're still bringing in food from other countries.
Absolutely. And basically what comes in between that production and having to import is the value chain. And what drives the value chain? Supply and demand and price. And what gentleman is saying about farmers it's not worth farmers planting maize is a result of the price. If farmers are getting a poor price for the maize, there's no point in growing it. But what we hope to bring to the farmer is access to greater information about what the value of their crop is worth. If Kenya imports so much maize, the price should be high, and it is high. But often farmers sell their maize at below the market because they either need the cash or they don't know what the value of their maize is worth. So by giving that transparency to the market, we can see that Kenya has a huge demand for maize and not enough supply. The price should, in theory, be high, and it is high. And so we want to convey that to the farmer and say, look, it is worth planting maize, but not always maize. this app isn't just about maize. There's other crops in there. You can see what other crops prices are, etc., even livestock. So farmers can evaluate before they plant. What's the price of pulses this year? What's the price of dairy milk, etc., so it gives the farmer option. And what we're seeing in increasingly developed agricultural economies like America or Europe, they rotate crops. So one season they'll plant soya, one season they'll plant maize. Soya is a very good nitrogen fixing plant. It's good for the soil. Actually means you don't have to apply so much fertilizer. So they'll rotate, and it helps improve the condition of the soil. So if the farmer has great access to those information about that sort of stuff, he sees the price of soya is twice the price of a bag of maize. And he can go back into working his costings for the year, and he'll figure out, well, this year, let me try soya on half of my land. He spreads the risk by perhaps being undercut on his maize sales, but then he also is improving the condition of his soil at the same time, which is another big issue for Kenyan agriculture.
Condition of the soil. I'm glad we've had 30 minutes of discussion without talking about the government, but we must bring them in at some point. President Uhuru Kenyatta, one of his big 4 pillars is food security. Some have said that he could possibly look into bringing idle government-owned farmland into production and also implement a new taxation scheme to discourage private owners from leaving arable land unused. Harun Washira, would those measures make a difference in the sector, or is it still beating around the bush?
I think you have got the mega actions that government takes and the micro actions that are needed to bring about transformation. If you take a small village and you just insert in that village a silo that can store the maize or the dengu or the soya when it has been harvested just for 2 months, and then make available cash to the farmers to use against their grains at 12%, the price of each one of those grains will double in exactly 3 months. So do the farmers need a huge production of maize in a distance of like 100 kilometers, or do they need the capacity to store what they grow, get the money they need for getting their children to school, and then 3 months later offload when the market is off season and pay off their debts? Because
farmers are held ransom by their day-to-day expenses.
Yes.
School fees is coming up.
We do that experiment all the time. We work with the groups where we store together the crop that they have grown. And then says, you can invest. Right now, I have a mango pulping process going on as we speak right now. So those with mangoes and those who have got cash pool their money together. We all buy the mangoes at this particular time because the price is crushed down to the ground, pulp it into a juice that we will keep for the next 3-4 months, and then we will offload it when the mango season is off at double the price. Now, so what really is needed in Kenya is not so much the mega project, although I know with the government you will never be able to get a micro project happening because the guys who must eat will need to eat, yeah? But with the small micro projects at the community level is where we really need help. And if I had a chance to sit down with him, I would tell him.
By him, you mean President Uhuru Kenyatta?
President Uhuru Kenyatta. I would say distribute the implementation of those projects and bring them down to the level where communities can actually own their own storage and manage their own microfinance. You would achieve a lot more than introducing the big projects. Now, I don't discredit the big projects. If you can produce...
The Galana irrigation scheme.
If you can make Galana produce enough maize grain to beef us up during the times when there's no rain, during drought and all of that, or during instead of importing, fantastic. And I think that's great. I do not, by the way, share the view that we should grow a crop that we can get from elsewhere cheaper. If we can get maize from Brazil or somewhere at half the price, I would bring it in all the time. But that same plot, I will make sure that we utilize it to grow something else that costs double the price of maize and export it. And the market is there. The contract manufacturers in the US cannot get enough of vegetables that are dried, or even somebody yesterday was telling me in the US, if you pulp enough mangoes in big drums, you can export to the US all the time. And there are people who are willing to buy those products at many times more price than the maize. So I would say don't grow what you can buy cheaply. Japan does not make any steel itself. It does not have the natural resources for making steel, but it imports those, makes steel, produces cars that are cheaper than anybody else in the world. But if they insisted that they had to actually have the raw materials for whatever it is they produce, they will never manufacture.
Okay, okay. Let me get your quick final thoughts. Giles, to you, how can technology aid, number one, in ensuring agricultural produce, because you do have bad seasons when the rain doesn't come or it comes too much, and also in tracing agriculture from the market back to the source? If I find apples at a supermarket, can I tell you where the apples were grown, under what conditions? How can agriculture help with those two aspects, insurance and traceability?
Absolutely. Technology is immensely powerful, and these kind of applications, there are, as we are well aware, Kenya is a bit of a silicon savannah. It's been called Silicon Savannah. There's a lot of brilliant ideas being made, and there's a lot of collaboration going on. Apps such as Ulima can work with microfinance institutions, can work with insurance companies to enhance the platform, so farmers can get access to credit, can get access to insurance, and also perhaps in the future get access to value chain tracking. So, you know, if on a barcode or however it may be. There's immense possibilities, and it's very exciting for Kenya. A lot of other East African countries don't have this kind of development and ideas being thrown around, and it's very exciting. I think farmers should be looking to the future. Yeah, it doesn't have to be maize. Yeah, it doesn't have to be this, but there's a lot of talk and there's a lot being done. So I encourage farmers to get out there, get onto these apps, try them out, see what you like best, and it's free. I mean, who can complain? Who can complain when it's free?
Harun, let me give you the final word. Go ahead.
Yeah, my final word is that we actually also do have such an app. Our app is called the Akili ET. It manages production on the farm. All the inputs that the farmer is using within a value chain, accepts all of those, and then compares against all his sales to be able to give him a profit and loss himself. So the farmer makes a decision, can I continue growing on this? Every member of our value chain gets that access free. Traceability, trace the produce in the farm, trace it in the factory.
Oh, so it has that particular...
Yeah, it has the traceability all the way to the US, where our buyers of the produce that we are dealing with can actually trace a particular batch all the way back to the farms, the group of farms where it came from. Now, the use of it in the developed world is very, very high, because it is a requirement for them to trace the produce
they need to know
all the
way
backwards.
where their vegetables came from.
For us, it's very, very important to trace all the inputs also that has gone into it, so that we know, is it healthy to eat, and at the same time, is it profitable for the farmer?
We need to know where the fertilizer came from.
Yes.
On which soil it was.
Absolutely. The soil, we input the soil condition. We take a test on the soil. We put that one in. You know the exact levels of fertilizer that were applied, what chemicals may have been used at a particular date, and all of that information is transparently available to anybody who is associated with that value chain. I agree that it's not the only one. There are many others, different uses, but technology is very useful. What I can probably say as my last point is that it is the micro technologies at the farm level that can do the greatest impact, that can produce the greatest impact. Like what I told you about working with diatomite. Even just working with ash, you know, to be able to bring down the soil acidity,
ash.
you know. Yeah, just ash. You know, I burned rice husks, which I used to heat water, but then I use that ash in the field to bring down the acidity level and increase the production by a significant lot. That information to the farmer is a lot more important than, for example, being told, you know, do great things, find a market here. Because if he increases his production by 3 or 4 times, suddenly even at what appeared to be a low price becomes a good price.
Okay.
Small tractors, tiny little things that you can use in pushing, but bring them up in a container, use apps to make them available to the people. They can see, I can buy this unit. They can borrow money from their cooperative to be able to do that, and then use them in order for them to get the production rate up and to get the products to market.
Those you feel will make the difference.
Big difference.
Thank you so much. Giles Lois, marketing with Ulima. You can download the app, have a look at it. And of course, Harun Wachira, founder, Akili Group, and social entrepreneur. Very stimulating discussion. I feel like I could venture into farming with some of the information that I've received in this particular discussion. Thank you so much to everyone who's taken time to watch. We take a quick break. When we return, Brian Okoth will be telling you what's happening on social media, on alternative media platforms. He'll be here with us in just a bit. We will be right back.
Mauricio was very upset when he found out about the scandal my mom caused, and that's why I had to pretend that I stopped speaking to her. And actually, you were really mean and heartless in the way you behaved toward me.
Darling, you did not need to talk to her that way. She really did want to help me.
Oh, you think she wanted to help? Please, that woman just wants to exploit you.
Is it true that Filipino is becoming famous now?
Yeah, but he's good. People have always liked him. He's good. Everyone likes him.
Yeah, but there's somebody there who's really not too pleased, not a single bit, with Filipino's fame right now.
Vuna ushindi kwenye Baraka Kibao Bonanza na Baraka Fertilizer. Bidhaa bora kutoka Toyota Tusho Fertilizer Africa Limited.
Na utajuaje kwamba mtoto amechoka ama hapumui vizuri? Utamwona yule mtoto anashindwa kupumua, utamwona anajaribu kulia lakini sauti haitoki kwa uzuri.
Habari njema kwa kina mama wote wenye watoto wadogo. Kila kitu unachohitaji kujua kuhusu kulea mtoto mwenye afya na furaha sasa vyapatikana kwenye View Sasa.
Mtoto yule pia atakuwa hawezi kukohoa vizuri. Anajaribu kukohoa kutoa kitu kwenye njia yake ya kupitisha hewa lakini hawezi. Mtoto yule pia utaweza kumwona ama utamsikia kwamba kuna sauti ambayo inatoka kwenye koo yake, ni kama anajaribu kutoa kitu lakini anashindwa.
Kutizama afya ya mama na mtoto, download app ya View Sasa. Muonyeshe mwanao mapenzi kwa kutizama afya ya mama na mtoto kwenye app ya View Sasa pekee.
This new year, enjoy the biggest treat of the season. Waking up with you.
I'm going on a trip tomorrow with Mrs. Antonia Santa Maria.
What did you say, Santa Maria? Is she young? Is she pretty?
Maya asked you to give her some time? Do you look like a clock?
I have no plans of letting her go with just any guy. All of a sudden, there she was, like some kind of angel.
Because you're such a pretty girl, does he have to turn around to look at you?
Pablo is the youngest and most successful flower grower in Mexico. And he's the most eligible bachelor in this country.
I don't understand why she made Maya believe.
Thanks to me, you're going to enjoy this beautiful place with that gorgeous woman.
Daniela Arena, Ella Velden, or Cristina. Waking up with you.